Greetings from Vietnam. Listen, in order for you to become someone new, you're going to have to give up on that old self. And let me break down what I mean by that. There are many of you, like I once was, that is tired of people taking them for granted. You know, you're tired of being underpaid at your job. You're tired of being taken advantage of or used by the people that you love and care about most. But here's the thing. If you want that to stop, you have to change. You have to become someone different. You're given all of your power and the responsibility of your elevation over to someone else. Let me tell you, people who are getting over on you or getting things their way, there's no incentive for them to change. I'm not telling you to leave your spouses or your relationships or to quit your job. But if you're being underpaid at a job that's getting good work out of you, what is their incentive to pay you as they should? If that man or woman that you're currently with is abusing and mistreating you, gaslighting you, treating you as his personal maid, his therapist, his child care worker, what is his incentive to change and be different? You have to not only demand, right? Because your words, you've been saying the same shit for years now. Your actions need to speak for itself. If you've told someone over and over what you do not like or what you expect from them, and due to their unwillingness or lack of capacity to internalize what you're saying, your actions need to speak, right? Very loud, very clear, uncrossable. That's it. Stop pleading and begging with people who lack understanding or who are so misguided and dysfunctional, who actually get off on your misery. And I know that's hard to accept at times, because you don't want to believe that you were in such a dysfunctional place that you would attract those type of individuals, especially when you've done nothing but treat them with love, kindness, respect, loyalty, and all that good stuff. But you must accept this. Everyone is not like you, and you have to also accept that the person that you were when you met those individuals, when you started that job, you are no longer. That's why it's so uncomfortable. That's why you keep talking and hoping and praying for change. You want to make things work, right? You want to be that great employee or that great boss or whomever whatever your position is. You just want to be a great person in general. But here's the thing. When you started out, depending on how you entered this world, what life circumstances you had to bear witness to and experience, that person that was people pleasing, that craved love from dysfunctional people who did not have the capacity or the ability to love you in a healthy way, or may have downright rejected you, yes, that impacted your life. So your selection of a man or woman, career, how you showed up in your everyday life, even on the job or in your place of business, is completely different. That's why you're so uncomfortable now. That's why you're so exhausted. You are at the point in your life where change is necessary. And I'm here to tell you, there's no amount of cussing, pleading, crying, counseling, whatever it is that you're doing, HR calling, keeping notes of every slight is going to change these people. You have to change. And if that means leaving that toxic atmosphere, then yes, let me tell you, everything that I'm telling you, I have partake of. I've experienced firsthand. And I don't think people talk about this enough. When we enter relationships, especially if we were young, dysfunctional, people pleasing, toxic, all of that, the mindset that you went into these relationships with is not the same mindset you have now. And that's why so many of these marriages and relationships are not working out, because one person has changed and grown and the other is still the same. And we just need to accept that as human beings. A healthy marriage requires both parties to grow, right? And then meet at a point where both can get nourishment, wisdom, etc. from the other. But it's just like if you're the only one growing, then everything is on you. You are seeing all the toxic traits. You are doing the heavy lifting while that person is just draining and holding you back from becoming the best version of yourself. And that is so frustrating. And yes, you want that person to grow with you, to experience all the things that you envision, the traveling, the buying the new home, just everything that's great, elevation, starting or expanding your business, etc. And that person, due to their level of maturity, dysfunction, trauma, etc., they are not there. They are still in that fear-filled space of where, it's terrifying for them to take a leap, to try something new. And what happens oftentimes, you will realize, when one party in the relationship is growing, the other one becomes resentful, and they feel as if that other person is pulling away, or no matter, even if you explain it, because now you're spending precious energy instead of evolving and putting that energy into new ideas and creating new memories and experiences. You are there still explaining and proving over and over to a person who is afraid or who's intimidated that you're not cheating, that you're not leaving, that, you know what I mean? All these things that's just killing that relationship, And if it's not the relationship, it's the same thing with family members or whatever. The you that was there before is no longer, Let me take myself for an example. I was always the life of the party and loved to entertain and dance, and I'm from a Caribbean culture, Trinidad and Tobago, and we love to have a good time. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, what I've experienced is, once I started to grow, once I started to heal, once I gained self-love and self-respect, and I no longer wanted to self-abandon to make others happy, the conversations got cold. You would meet people and they want to bring up things from 20 years ago because they have not mentally updated their information on me. And and it's so obvious, and you're sitting there and you're uncomfortable. You do that little kind of smile, because come on, 20 years ago, and you're still bringing up these these tasteless jokes that, to be honest with you, they're not very flattering, or they weren't very flattering to me. It was a joke at my expense. And that's how you know when people are limited, right? Because they're not interested in getting to know the new you, because the new you intimidates them. And people are always afraid of or try to tarnish what is above them. And that doesn't make you a better person. It just means you have outgrown that pond you used to swim in. And you know, that's where the gossiping and trying to tear down your name, and where, you know, that old tired ass, oh, she don't, I remember when she used to do this. So do I had a good time. There's nothing that I've done that I'm ashamed of, you know. Or she's forgotten where she came from. You know what, let's put that forgotten where she came from tired ass phrase to rest. Where I came from needs to be forgotten. You know, it was not a very pleasant and happy place. Everything I've got, I've given to myself, right? With the help of my creator. So anytime someone wants to try to put you in a certain, you know, put you in a place, you know, or try to make you feel bad for outgrowing that place by telling you you forgot where you came from, say it proudly. You damn right. It was nothing worth remembering, right? Because people who truly care and love you, right, they will not try to use your past to hinder you or to shame you or to make you feel like you're, you know, you're being a quote unquote goody two shoes. What the fuck is a goody two shoes? If a person that develops self-respect for themselves, self-love, you know, ambition, and no longer wants to be a spectacle, or, you know, or the brunt of everybody's joke or verbal abuse, if that's a goody two shoes, well, change my name. My name is Nicole Rebecca, you know, Miss Goody Two Shoes. That's how you got to come at people. Because I'm here to tell you, man, there's always going to be a section of people that no matter what you do, bore witness to your, you know, your trauma, who participated in causing that trauma, that just want to keep you in that box, you know, of mediocrity, you know, or you know, self-sabotage, or, you know, they just want that version of you that was toxic. Why? Because it fits their needs. You know, but I'm here to tell you, you don't need anyone's permission to start over. I don't care what it is that you used to do. You know, and even if you are someone I don't mess with because, you know, in my opinion, you did me wrong, you do not need my permission to start over either, right? Every day that we get up, we get a chance to just start afresh. Make your atonements in your way. Speak to your creator, ask you, you know, forgive yourself, ask for forgiveness, etc., and just start over, you know. But I'm here to tell you, those that are oppressing you or who's benefiting from you, you know, your depression, your hard work, you know, your misery, they're not gonna just get up one day. It's never been done. I've been alive 54 years, and not one person that benefited from me clowning myself or using up my resources have never come back to me and said, you know, I was wrong for doing X, Y, Z, blah, blah. What they do is when they cannot use you anymore or benefit from you anymore, right? If you don't cut them off completely, they release themselves and go and try to find a new source. That is how it is. Once you gain self-respect, self-love for yourself, it's like you become repulsive to these types of people. And depending on where they at, they will, you know, they will talk about you like a dog. You know, they will never talk about all the things that you did for them, the amount of times that you made them laugh, How many times you gave them a kind word, right? They will then tell you, after you've created success for yourself or a peace of mind for yourself, right? They will find some way to try to tarnish your name, and that's okay. That is their right. You know, they're being misguided, even if they don't believe that they are. You just have to focus on you. But this is what it's all about, right? And the reason why I can say so proudly is because as I walk the beach here in Vietnam, and I'm getting ready to go and have my, my lunch under my favorite coconut trees, I know I have done the right thing. I have cried more tears for many lifetimes, you know, but I had to take responsibility. I had to give up what was hurting me. I had to stop trying to bargain and explain and explain. And another thing that proves my point, if someone is truly interested in what you have to say, right, they're not going to try to police the way that you say it. I remember in a previous relationship, I would be told, or gaslighted into believing, oh, the way you approach me is why we can't have a conversation. So therefore, even before you have a discussion, you're trying to police your tone. You're trying to say it so it's not, it would not come across as offensive, right? Look at all this fuckery that I was doing, right? To try to get you to treat me the way that I deserve. Look at what I was doing so that I could try to communicate with you to do better, to be better, right? But come to find out, it was never about the tone. Because even when I lowered the tone, I wrote out what I had to say, there was still, no change, or I was made to believe that, I'm overreacting, or I always have something to say. Let me tell you, that is manipulation. You can't win or prosper and grow mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally with an individual like that. As long as you're not doing everything that they want, right? They're doing a whole bunch of shit and getting away with it. As long as they can, continue with their toxic ways and you stay quiet, then everything is great. You need to watch that. If on your job, as long as you are just working, and doing extra things that you're not being paid for, not being recognized for, that misguided boss has nothing, to say. They're going to praise you and use you as the model employee.